Well, draft coming up, always, I know, an interesting time. You're pretty low key when it comes to it. Will you pay much attention to it, or I mean, will you watch the draft tracker or anything like that?
If I'm in the office, I'll watch Draft Tracker, and I know Matt always does a good job of watching things for us. But we're always interested in what's going on, not only with our current players, but some of our future players. It impacts the program, sometimes in a positive manner, and sometimes in a negative manner. But always proud of our players that get to move on, and hopefully you have opportunities to bring in good players that are drafted as well.
What's kind of your gut about some of the guys that maybe have the best chance to go early, where it could be a decision for them they'll have to make?
As far as our incoming recruits, I think there are a number of those recruits that are guys that could be good drafts, but I don't think they're signable just because they're very good students and education is important to them. So I think we'll hold on to our entire draft class. That could change, with rounds and money. But I think the two that probably have the highest ceiling right now, or furthest along, would be Alex Greer, the junior college outfielder, and then Ryan Roper, which has gotten a lot of attention. But again, the education portion is important to them. So I think we're in good shape, but we're going to find out.
Now, for those guys, do you think a lot of times some of the scouts will stay away from them, not want to necessarily waste a pick on them if the scouts know that school's important for some of those guys?
I think a lot of times scouts do stay away. They will not waste a pick on them. Occasionally, you'll see a team that will just take a flyer on them late and hope that they can sign them. But the way the draft has changed, after the 10th round, so starting with the 11th round, there's a cap, and so it's much tougher to buy kids out of school.
As far as Justin goes, as you look at his skill set, what does he bring to a professional program right now as he is, and then where do you feel like he needs to maybe improve to make sure that he can be successful at that level?
Well, he's done a great job hitting, obviously, and does a good job with plate coverage, and does a very good job as far as recognizing pitches, the disciplined strike zone. Defensively, he was very good for us this year. There's a number of positions he can play. I think he's just got to figure out, or the organization has to figure out where he fits, and then really refine his skills in that area. When he was here, he played the infield, he played the outfield, he played second base, left field, center field. So he did play a number of positions. I think as he settles into a given position or a given area, he'll continue to improve that much more.
As far as Jordan goes, he was a guy that had a chance to go last year, came back. What do you see in terms of his skill set, and I mean, he may be one of those guys that could have a hard decision to make here this weekend?
Well, he's very athletic and has a lot of strength. Does a lot of things well. I don't know, where he's going to fit into the draft. There's some things that he did very well, and there's some things he needs to continue to improve upon. But organizations have to project just as we have to project with our incoming players and signees.
How's Kevin doing health-wise? Is that something that could impact where he goes this weekend, or is that not something that should be an issue?
I think it could impact, where he goes draft-wise. I think there's enough people that like him that I would think he's still going to be a draft. It may move him down a little bit lower. He's about a week away from a throwing program, and after a couple weeks of throwing in a given program, you can start working him back on the mound. So, I think we did the right thing with him, and hopefully he gets that opportunity and goes out and is very successful.
This isn't the first time that you've been around the draft, and what is it like for you to know that if a guy gets drafted lower than he thinks, he could come back, but obviously the goal is to play professionally? Mm-hmm. How do you kind of rationalize that as the head coach?
You try to help them at least lay out what you think are the pros and cons. They still have to make a decision. The one thing that's tough to tell somebody, this early in their life is, that the education is so important, because the education is important into 5, 10, 15, 30 years down the line. And it's tough for those young people to think that far ahead. If you're not making a ton of money, it's not in your best interest, in my mind, to go sign. I think Justin was very smart. He didn't get an opportunity last year, but he came back. He's within one semester of graduating. going to be able to go out and concentrate on baseball, and then it'll be much easier for him to come back and finish his degree. I know that Scott Boris about 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, did a presentation at our coaches convention, and he talked about if you don't make over $1 million in your signing bonus and you don't go back and get your college degree, you are behind in life. And so again, that's tough for a lot of people to understand, but if you look at salaries today and the quality of education that you get here, and how well our student athletes do once they go into the work world, from a financial standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to make sure you get your degree and then move on.
Kevin Duchesne named today to the Freshman All-America team, just another award for a kid who had an outstanding season.
Kevin did a really good job of continuing to improve. I think the thing I've been most impressed with him with is his attitude since the season's been over. I mean, he's not gloating and he's not satisfied. He sent a text out to all the freshmen about what they have to do as a group to improve, to make sure that we advance further into the tournaments and have better seasons. So he's a person that cares about the team. He understands baseball. He's continued to try to learn. Drew Dickinson's done a great job with him to help him progress. I think he's going to be very, very special. He's already shown a lot, and I think he's going to be a very, very special player for us as he moves ahead.
I want to ask you about Thomas. Is a possibility he could go somewhere this weekend. What do you see in terms of his, like we talked about Justin Jordan, in terms of what he brings now and where he needs to work to really stick at the next
Sure.
level if he does that?
Thomas is a very good player. He's one of the best defensive shortstops that I've seen in college, and that's where his strengths are. His other strengths are the fact that he competes so well and he really understands the game. Thomas and I have talked, as well as Thomas and the other coaches. He really needs to dedicate himself in the weight room and improve his strength so he has more durability. I think as he improves his strength, he becomes a better hitter because he'll use the entire field. He gets out on the front foot at times, but still makes solid contact. I really believe that if Thomas comes back for one more year, that he could put himself up in the 3 through 8 draft range. And when you get up in that situation, organizations look at you differently. They feel like they have more invested in you, and you seem to stick around longer.
Ultimately, I guess the decision comes down to them and their families. But I guess in the time period where they have to make this decision, how much of a role do you play, or have you basically talked to them all you can talk to them, and ultimately now it's in their court, or do you have dialogue with them during that time period in terms of helping them make that decision?
Every family is very different. I would like to at least be able to talk to the family so they understand some things. Certain families will completely shut you out, and certain families will rely on you a lot. And I want what's best for our players. I want them to go out and be very successful. I think the one thing that people have to understand, you look at our class 3 years ago, and you had 3 juniors that left. One of them's in extended spring training, so he's not on a club, probably going to end up on a short season club, and 2 of them are already released. And so, those are guys that left and still haven't finished their degrees yet. I think they will come back and finish their degrees, but I think that extra year of maturing, both from a mental standpoint and understanding the game better, and then being that much closer to your degree, are very, very important.